AI and the law. Welcome back to Techstination. I'm Fred Fishkin. With us from Clearbrief is founder and CEO Jackie Schafer. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Well, great to see you. And Clearbrief is a platform that utilizes AI, I understand, to assist attorneys in different types of cases. Tell us a bit of background.
Yeah, so I'm, a career litigator. I started out, in big law, massive law firm in New York, but I spent most of my career in government as an assistant attorney general in Alaska and Washington State. I'm based in Seattle now, so I feel like I have a bit of an untraditional background for the typical, AI entrepreneur, but I experienced a problem that, if you talk to any lawyer who goes to court, right, like the way that decisions are made in cases and the way that cases move forward is through the writing. That's our main way of communicating with the court. And there are just so many like tedious, painful tasks that, lawyers and their teams, right, like the paralegals, the legal assistants have to deal with in order to get something in the hands of the judge. So around, it was, early 2020, I had been learning about AI and sort of realizing the potential to take away some of this pain and suffering from the legal profession, and started the company. And we are now, we were recently named Litigation Product of the Year. I'm really proud about that at Legal Week, which is like the largest legal tech conference. And we're used by hundreds of law firms. And we're also used by courts and government agencies, which is really, really cool. And essentially, it's a product that lives in Microsoft Word that lets you, as you write, see the underlying factual evidence that could support your idea. It also automatically displays the cases, the statutes. And then when you're done writing, it does a number of sort of like administrative tasks. And you can share this fully hyperlinked final product with your end reader, the judge. So that's what Clearbrief does.
It sounds like it can save time and really help you fashion a better brief, I suppose, more thorough.
Yeah, and it's really about storytelling because, anyone who's ever worked with lawyers knows that, most of the lawyer's value is in taking this kind of like mess and this jumble of messy facts that they get from their client and turning it into a story that the judge can make sense of, that fits neatly into the established law. So that's where we really are helping use AI to help the lawyer get there faster.
Now, you were way ahead of the game. This is a few years ago, before most of us, I think, had heard about this kind of AI, really. And what are some of the issues that might arise with using the off-the-shelf stuff, ChatGPT or Bard, that kind of thing?
So one of the issues with using ChatGPT, which is, OpenAI's sort of public version, it will generate text for you based on different prompts. But there are very clear, disclaimers like this is not accurate. It will make up stuff. It will do what's called hallucination. That's the scientific term for the AI making things up. And it will even make up cases that look like real case citations. Because in the law, that's also how lawyers communicate with each other, and how, lawyers communicate with the judge is through these kind of like, it looks like a name of a case and then a bunch of numbers. And that's referring to tell them where they can go find this case. And it turns out the AI just sort of like hallucinated that and made up things that looked like real case citations, but they were totally fake. And the lawyer even asked ChatGPT, like, are these real cases? And it was like, yeah. So that wasn't, a shining moment for that lawyer of using good judgment, because hopefully when we have professionals using AI tools, they're more aware of the limitations there. But what happened was they filed this brief, and the judge, really came to the judge's attention that these were fake cases and they were ultimately sanctioned. So yeah, I mean, using any kind of AI as a professional, you have to be aware of what it's good for and what it's not, qualified to do. So, for example, the product like Clearbrief that my company provides, and there's several others that are really focused on the legal use case. the developers and, the companies that have built products that are really designed for a specific legal use case, we have created it so that it's difficult for the product to do that, or it's not really even set up to leave an open-ended possibility for hallucinations. So for example, one of the things that Clearbrief does is it will actually help you see what the evidence is behind any of your statements. And the AI will actually suggest other pages from across your evidence that could in fact relate back to what you wrote. So it's really helping the lawyer double check the truth of everything that they're submitting to the court. So it's using AI to, I guess, address one of the pitfalls of AI generated text.
But at the same time, I suppose, like anything, it is only as good as the information that you're providing it with, right?
Yeah, that's very true. So for example, if you write a statement in your brief, the supervisor sent her an inappropriate email, and you could actually use Clearbrief in Word to select that text, and the AI will suggest different, pages. Maybe it's emails that you've uploaded into Clearbrief. If you haven't uploaded any juicy emails, though, it won't have anything good to suggest. So that's how a closed circuit AI system like Clearbrief is working, to ensure that, the suggestions that it makes will be real, but you have to give it the right universe to play with. When it comes to, AI like ChatGPT, it's pulling from the internet, so things may or may not be true.
So it sounds like law firms and as a result, their clients are already benefiting from this technology that you have.
Yeah, they are. That's one of the things that I think is a little bit, inflammatory about some of the news stories that you read, where, people are scared that, AI is going to destroy the legal profession, or, we don't need lawyers anymore. It's like, well, we've actually had,
Never mind the legal profession, they're saying it's going to destroy the world. So
yeah, that too. But the reality is we have AI, we've had sort of a type of AI called, natural language processing that has been around for, a little while now, and it's embedded already into a lot of the products that professionals use for, complex writing. So things like legal research, that's the basics of being a practicing lawyer. For the last couple decades, it's been electronic, and there, in recent years, there has already been AI embedded into the legal research process. So AI is not like something that this is totally brand new to the legal profession. But what is new is that these large language models that's what's running the AI behind the scenes. They have really amazing, like, sort of new capabilities of generating text, so really sophisticated ways of making connections between when you're doing a search. And so we're able to enhance the work that lawyers are doing by leveraging this new technology.
now we've seen a lot of talk about the potential of AI, and you're talking about some of it here, but in other fields like medicine, for instance, and doctors being able to have all of this knowledge from all over the world, really at their fingertips, perhaps. Tell us what the future looks like from your perspective and how important this is.
Yeah, I think that's my particular vision for how AI can be helpful for professionals like, doctors, lawyers, anyone who needs to make, an informed decision based on a lot of data and research and written materials. One of the things that AI is really good at is finding text that is similar, and making those connections, as I mentioned, between a question you're asking or text that you've written, and helping you kind of find the most relevant things. Now, do we want AI to ultimately decide for you? This is the, this is the diagnosis that you should follow, doctor. No, I don't think that's the best use case yet for AI. But what it can do is there's a lot of actual tedious, annoying work that goes into finding even, the suggestions for the possible diagnoses. Let's put it in the medical context, right? So having to painstakingly, search through all different document repositories and search and scroll, and it just takes time that a doctor might give up and and go with the first result or something. So that's not ideal either. So what AI can do is filter, find the most relevant information and surface it really quickly for that doctor, so that then the doctor is still the one making the informed decision. And the doctor is still the one sort of reading between the lines of, oh, well, based on my human experience in treating this, this answer doesn't account for something else. And they can, use their sophisticated human knowledge to make the final call. But AI is really helpful in just getting us to a point where we're making a really informed decision.
There's also a lot of talk and fear about AI taking jobs away. You see any chance that it could one day replace attorneys with an app, for instance, for legal representation? In some cases?
I don't think so. I mean, I would say the first reason that maybe isn't talked about as much, it has nothing to do with whether the technology could, serve in that role, which we'll get to. It's just about the fact that the legal profession is like a guild. It's it has layers and layers of sort of protectionism built into it, so that it's self-governing, right? Where we have rules that we set for our own profession. And I think that that's actually the biggest roadblock to really, really significant change of how legal services are delivered. Like we have, for example, in certain states, there's sort of the inability of non-lawyers to have an ownership stake in a law firm. And yeah, so there's just sort of rules like that will prevent total sea change in a legal profession. But aside
I
from
guess that's not to say that an AI tool couldn't pass the bar exam.
right, they did find recently, they tested whether AI could, how it would score in the bar exam, and I believe it got a passing score. But that's the thing. Being a lawyer is not just being a human Google. It's not just finding the right law. It's so funny when you do legal research, for example. This is something it's not obvious. Even having gone through law school, when I first started working as a lawyer, I remember people giving me assignments to research, what the law is, and there's a clear statute that says what the law is. Well, that's not the only story. There's also regulations that relate to what the statute says. And then there's several cases that have sort of different spins on what that regulation means. And then that in turn affects the statute. And so there's never one answer. That's sort of the beauty and the challenge of law. There's very rarely just an obvious answer to most, hard legal questions. So you'll always need lawyers to be the ones to pull it all together, to synthesize. And, there's also, of course, a lot of in-person aspects that are essential to the law. There's a whole school of thought that to get a fair trial, it needs to be live and in person. During the pandemic, we sort of shifted more to, courtroom proceedings over Zoom, but the lawyer is doing a lot when they're there in the courtroom. They're reading the judge, they're reading the jury, they're reading their client, the vibes in the room, and filtering that into how they, how they explain the information. And so there's just a lot of complexity that's involved in, getting to a legal resolution that machines will never be able to do. Now, that is not to say that we talked at the beginning, or just now, what I was saying about complex legal questions. There's probably, a subset of legal questions where you just need a nudge in the right direction, and you sort of just need to have a general sense. Those kinds of questions, if you are using a trusted, legal trained AI tool, for sure, that will help. That will make things more accessible. It'll make it easier for people who are not lawyers to quickly kind of understand the basics of a legal question. But are you going to file that answer with the judge? Like, you need, you're going to want a professional who really understands all the nuances to, have the final say there.
I'm curious, do you think judges could find an AI tool useful and maybe devouring a transcript and coming back with thoughts or whatever?
Believe it or not, I've been on, calls today with several of our customers. We're used by numerous judges across the country. And what they use Clearbrief for is when they're writing their orders, they also want to make sure that they have accurately represented what's in the facts, that they accurately described what really happened in the evidence, and of course the law too. So, but Clearbrief, we're sort of the first tool of its kind to be in Microsoft Word and help the judge. They could select, their sentence, which is the product of they've listened to the hearings, they've read through the briefs, and they're like, these are the facts as I understood them. Now they can select the sentence, and our AI will find where in the record that idea came from. And maybe it didn't come, it wasn't correct, and actually they misremembered. It will flag that for them too. So it helps the judge ensure accuracy. And then before they publish the opinion, they can have visibility into all of, that underlying law by using our tool. So yeah, it's amazing. Honestly, I love seeing judges who are excited about technology. They didn't grow up, using technology necessarily. Some of the, the judges that we work with, and it's just so cool to see how they're, public servants who are taking their responsibility seriously to deliver, the absolute best justice system that they can do. And for that, they need technology because their workload and their dockets are so heavy. They have just an insane amount of work. So this is a way to do it, but ensure accuracy.
Fascinating. For more info, where can people go, Jackie?
Yeah, so they can go to clearbrief.ai or clearbrief.com. It's kind of funny. We started out with clearbrief.com because back in 2020, lawyers were not as interested in AI. So we thought, look, we'll focus on, just the Clearbrief part. But it's exciting to see that now everyone is starting to understand the importance of using, AI powered technology in their practice.
I guess we're just getting started. Jackie Schafer, thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you so much.